to me, just the presence of that could be threatening to other people. I would want, and it's not that we're looking to expel kids. You guys have seen us modify so many expulsions. However, it gives the board a level of insight to understand and make sure that that student's okay, that we're following procedures, that they have the supports that they need, that it's being handled correctly, that the school, it gives that opportunity for that discussion. And then if any information from the investigation comes out that, well, this is a bit different from prior cases, then we can have a discussion if we do want to dismiss the recommendation and go forward with an expulsion. But whenever there's a lookalike firearm, to me, that's escalated. Because we have community members where they could be holding a toy gun and we could have another Tamir Rice on our hands. And that's not something I want. And while it's not fair that that's the society we live in, that's unfortunately where we're at. And our goal is to protect these kids, educate these kids, and get them to graduate to lead successful lives. So that's where I'm coming from, is I would like to adapt it so that it does come to us so that we can have our eyes on it, not with the intent to expel as many kids as we can.
Mr. Riddle.
Okay, I would like to know, actually, Ms. Lensing, where in this policy or where you'd want to put those words, that it would come to the board. But that, think about that before you answer. And here's my question here. On this form that we're looking at, I had a couple questions. Ms. Vanderbroek, I would just, in the very first paragraph, under level one.
Excuse me, Mr. Riddle, which document, please?
Oh, yes, the one that's up on the screen.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's not. It's the other one, the administrative proposal for lookalike weapons.
No,
That
that
one.
is the one on the screen.
Yeah, that's little.
That's the one on the screen. Okay, in the very first paragraph, in the other paragraphs, in paragraph.
Disruption.
Keep
scrolling up.
An act.
Level one disruption.
Yeah, disruption. I would add there, or suggest that we add toy before firearm, because you've used that toy in front of firearm in the other three sections, but we didn't add toy there.
Okay.
And then I would ask, in the next section, prohibited material possession, which causes or is likely to promote disruption. Okay, and then it says environment, then it talks about fireworks, sparklers, shock pens. I would like you to define what a shock pen is and what's the difference between that maybe and a taser, because it doesn't spell out taser.
Yeah.
What is a shock pen?
I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't see Mr.
But we all know
Valadez,
what a
who might-
taser is.
Oh.
And you know, when I was a kid, they had shock pens where you had a little thing that you put in your hand and you shook somebody's hand, and it just buzzed and made a little, and they pulled their hand back. I don't know if that's a shock thing or not, but I would take out the word shock pen, since we can't even define it, and put
Well,
in.
we do have Mr. Valadez. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I was kind of like, do you want to? Do you not want to?
What's a shock pen, and how does that differ from a taser?
Good evening, board. Good evening, superintendent, committee members. So a shock pen is what you described, those little pens that you push on them and it gives you that shock.
A little
Okay.
shock, yes.
Yeah, it looks like a
it's
regular
Not
pen.
a prong taser.
No,
It's
it
not
looks
a
like
taser,
a regular
it's just-
pen, and that little clip at the top, it gives you that shock.
A little shock, a little battery operated thing.
Correct.
Okay, why do we not, let me ask, why do we not have tasers in here and also pepper spray? I know pepper spray is down below, but we've had incidences in the past where we have children have brought pepper spray to school. Even, I remember a few years back, on a keychain with her, it dropped out of the backpack with her keys on it. And there's nowhere in here that we talk until we get down at the very bottom, defining what a pepper spray.
Yeah, it's not listed, but we do cover it under prohibited material there. We do confiscate it when they
Yes,
do come into the building.
it's under Group A, actually, a definition. We go further down. It does say pepper spray is the last word in there, but we don't have tasers. And I would see,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
somewhere in here, I would like to see tasers, because they're very common. People do bring them in, and then the pepper spray.
Bring it
And
up.
thank you for that definition. The other thing I would like to ask, and Ms. Vanderbroek, and I know I'd asked this before, if we could possibly, I can see a situation where someone has brought a toy firearm in, and they haven't caused any bodily harm, but if they pointed at somebody it definitely causes emotional harm. It
Yeah.
could be a toy and they point it at a teacher or an administrator or a student. And I would ask the board to consider, can we put those words in there, emotional harm? Because I think that, you know, the child might, if we don't have it in there, we may not think that's too serious. It's very serious. If the
Yeah.
child turned this like weapon on somebody or on the staff, on the students, that would be very frightening and, you know, could be very, so I'd like to add it as well.
So I'd like to just clarify what you're asking.
I'm
Are-
asking-
Are you asking that emotional harm
Be added.
be added to
Bodily
the?
harm. Bodily
Wait a minute,
or-
wait a minute, I
Level
got to
two.
get a location.
Yes.
Level 2
To
infraction.
the weapons section, level 2 infraction,
Level
as
2
a
infraction.
mandatory referral to the board?
Yes.
The board can exercise its discretion to do that. You can go beyond, you know, what the school code requires, but you
Right.
can't do less. So you
Right.
could,
Level 2
as a
infraction.
board, add, if there is evidence of emotional harm,
Yes.
that comes before the board as a
Yes.
mandatory 1 year, subject to modification.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I can see that very traumatic and
Proposal, yeah.
so that I would like that added under level 2 infractions and just, you know, where it says to cause bodily or emotional harm.
And I just want to point out that we can make suggestions at this point.
Right.
But whatever we
Right.
suggest still has to be approved by the board.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And then I guess I have one final question here, and it's down a little bit further.
I see the safety director. I'd like to hear from him about lookalike.
Okay, let me finish my question if I could on and then I'll be done here. And that's down a little bit further down under weapons, non-firearm possession use, where I would like to know the rationale for dropping that section you crossed out. If the appearance or reaction to a lookalike or target is inconsistent, what did you mean by that, Ms. Vanderbroek?
So the reason that was recommended to be removed at this point is so that you had clarity along the continuum in the other items where reference to lookalike weapons was not previously stated, and then there would be continuity across the buildings in what discipline category or label was used if it didn't rise to the level of a mandatory expulsion recommendation. So we were trying to get clarity across buildings in how it was treated.
So you're not taking away, when I read that, it looks like you're taking away that possibility of a principal deciding that, yes, a toy firearm was brought in, but it doesn't fit the definitions above. It hasn't caused any harm at all. Maybe it was in his backpack. It was never given or shown or anything, but it's been found in his backpack. And you're taking that possibility of,
We're not taking it away. We're saying if in that example, that should be treated as a level 1 disruption. Because
oh,
it
and
was
not- okay, I
possessed
got
but
you.
not
So
used.
it's already in there. I
Correct.
understand now. Thank you. Okay, and then Group B, why do you have a Group A and then a Group B? I wasn't clear on Group B.
That has been in there for a long-standing period of time. Mr. Valdez, do you have anything you'd like to say on how the Outreach Department has been using Group B within the weapons offense? It is still trying to get, historically, to my recollection, within the district, and it changes with administrators, and it changes with boards, and it changes with what's going on in the community over the years. But box cutters and razor blades are always things that they are sharp, they're knives, they can cause great damage.
Yes.
They range from
they're not.
the kids who show up and they forgot it was in their pocket, they work at Home Depot, the grocery
Right.
store, whatever. Group B, it allowed them to still be qualified as a weapons offense without it triggering a mandatory expulsion referral because they possessed it or they gave it and passed it around the building. Mr. Valdez, is there anything else you'd like to add about how that is utilized, or did I capture it correctly?
You summed it up pretty much. Group B, like you said, is those that pass it around. Someone brought it in, and a group of students and they're passing around, those are B because they weren't directly the ones that brought the weapon. Right?
The language does speak in the school code to the person who brings the weapon to school is subject to the mandatory expulsion, not necessarily the person who it got passed around to.
Wow.
I do think that is a shortcoming in the legislative language, quite honestly.
Wow.
Okay, Ms.
But-
Fabian has had her hand up for quite a while. I'd like to recognize her.
So I think that part of it also kind of sums up why on the bottom where the weapons non-firearm firearm possession use on level 2 is a little bit gritty. So if we scroll up a little bit, because I view, just as you stated, box cutters and razor blades as a type of knife because it can cut and it's meant to cut. But when you put it in with as a look-alike, a razor blades and box cutters are not look-alike weapons.
Right.
They are weapons. So I think to clarify, we should have look-alike firearms separated from what's an actual weapon.
Right.
Because again, then when we're looking at who brings in a weapon, and this is why they were brought up to us as potential expulsions, because razor blades and box cutters were treated as weapons. That is why they were brought to us, not because they were a look-alike. Because again, they weren't used with the intent to harm, but they are a weapon. So I
Right,
think
but they
that's
are
where the
weapons.
clarification
Yes.
needs to be made, so then we can actually go
makes
back
sense.
and see that when we've had these things brought up, it's because they were treated as a weapon, even though there was no intent to use, versus something like a toy gun, which a child would view as a toy, which is marketed to them as a toy, and innocently would bring to play.
Right.
So those are two very different
I
distinctions.
like that distinction. That makes good sense, Ms. Fabian.
Ms. Hannah.
But you know what? We're talking about the lookalikes and this weapon versus that weapon and everything. Board of Education, none of our students are supposed to be bringing any weapons in school. And so all of this redoing the policy and putting this in there and all that. Look, we're forgetting. No student is supposed to bring any kind of weapon, look-alike or anything other. And so the whole thing, you're going to be confusing people. You're specifically going to be confusing the students. Now, all of a sudden, oh, well, if it has an orange tip, it's not a look-alike. It's just a play gun. Come on, you guys. This is totally out of order. We don't need to be giving kids and others excuses that it's okay to bring these things into our schools. The whole thing, consistency. No weapons in school. No lookalikes. And that's how we have always functioned. And if it was a lookalike, it still came before the board. And whether the board, not to say that they were going to expel the student, because we don't expel students. We stay their expulsions. And we continue their education in alternative placements. But this stuff about this this look-alike firearm, I'd like to hear from the director of safety and his view on what a look-alike is. He is director of safety. Can we hear from him?
So I'm going to ask, since this is a board discussion, and I'm just going to
Well, you got Mr. Valdez.
Can I please finish? I can't respond to your question if you don't allow me to speak. So I'm going to ask if we're going to have a discussion, the staff will speak for clarity. Mr. Valadez is not giving an opinion, he is giving clarity to how they use the principle. If we're asking Mr. Wilson to add clarity to how his security sees this, that's one thing, and yes, Mr. Wilson will do that today. However, if we're asking Mr. Wilson for an opinion on this policy as of right now, I'm going to ask that he reserve comment because it is the board's discussion. It is the board's discussion now, and then the administration will look at the board's discussion and come back with what we feel may be recommendations, agreements, or other components. And it's unfair for us to put our director of safety
No, it's
up there
not.
to give recommendations. That is your
It's
opinion.
not a recommendation,
So as of now, if
Superintendent.
you would like clarification on an item, Mr. Wilson will provide it. He will not give you an opinion or an advisements till the board has a discussion on this and comes up with proposals that we will look at and come back to the board out of fairness to our staff.
I want to know what he is directing his staff to determine whether it's a look-alike weapon. So what's wrong with that?
That is clarification. So, Mr. Wilson, if you would like to clarify a weapon versus, I want to use your exact words, Ms. Hannah. What is your question?
I want to know what is considered a look-alike.
Okay.
So can you please
A
clarify,
look-alike
Mr. Wilson?
firearm.
Can you please clarify, Mr. Wilson, what a look-alike firearm is? Thank you.
Good evening, Board President, Board members, Superintendent, colleagues, and community. Generally, we consider anything that's a look-alike weapon, that anything that can be mistaken as a firearm, a look-alike firearm.
Thank you. That's simple.
Okay, Ms. Fabian?
Just to note, I feel like nowhere in this policy does it say that it's okay to bring a toy gun or a look-alike firearm. It's clearly laid out by saying it's under prohibited material to bring a look-alike toy firearm. So I don't think that this is going to confuse the community and tell kids that it's okay. It's literally saying this is prohibiting, which is why we need this clarification added into the handbook. Same thing with the disruption or use of a look-alike toy firearm. Again, it's adding clarity that it should not be brought to school and you should not be disrupting class with it. I don't understand where this is saying that we're okay with bringing a toy look-alike gun. I don't see that. If anything, it's clarifying that they should not.
Ms. Lindsay?
I think another aspect that I want to make sure we're clear on, we're talking about look-alike weapons, which depending on an angle, whether it has an orange tip or a painted black tip, depending on where you are from the angle, it's going to be hard to tell from an observer in the situation if that's a look-alike or a quote-unquote toy. I have concerns because, you know, we've all seen kids run around with those big Nerf toys, like the Nerf guns that shoot the rubber-tipped foam pellets. But there are also actual weapons that people can purchase now that if you look at it, it's decorated to look like it's a toy, but it's an actual firearm. So I think we need to have a clear picture, right? Because if a first grader or kindergarten, like I'll use my son, he's a first grader. He sneaks things into his backpack. And as a parent, if he brings a Nerf gun into school, then I would expect to go through the full process and it lands where it lands. And those are the consequences for his actions and he would need to learn from it, right? But I think that scenario is also very different from something that looks closer to a weapon, where one looks obviously like it's a toy versus to what Director Wilson had said, where it's made to look like an actual firearm. So I don't know how into the weeds we're going to get on that. I think that's a fine line. But I would prefer, instead of like a look-alike toy firearm,
Right.
a look-alike or toy firearm. And I do appreciate Mr. Riddle's addition for the emotional harm, because that to me is mostly what I'm thinking about when these situations come to us, because nothing has happened with the modifications that we've approved or other incidents that have happened, but it's that emotional component that we haven't really focused on. And then I also have a question for permanent markers, because I can understand the vandalism concern around permanent markers, but these, and it's not a weapon, but it's under prohibited material. And so students are probably using these permanent markers for school projects. So if it's being condoned to being used on projects within the classroom, does it make sense to penalize them for bringing their own metallic Sharpies to school? Oh, there. Yeah, so I would like to see that removed from the possession. But we have under prohibited material, if they're using it to cause property damage, that makes sense to me.
So I do just want to point out that in the sections on prohibited material, in the section, and both of them at level 1 and level 2, it does require that the administration take into consideration whether the lookalike, whatever it would be, or any of the other items, causes or is likely to promote disruption. So that still leaves some discretion to look at what was it, how did others react to it, which I think goes to the fear level of the students. Did they feel it was a safety risk because they really felt it was, they thought it was a real gun? You know, if you pulled it out in a cafeteria, it falls out of the pocket and the whole cafeteria runs out the door.
Yeah.
I expect the administration is going to treat it as a more significant event than if nobody saw it and nobody leaves the cafeteria, nobody reports it. It didn't cause any disruption. And we have to remember, for a suspension or an expulsion, there has to be a safety risk or significant disruption before you even get to that level. So this is trying to give a continuum that takes that into consideration as well.
Yeah. I'm also going to share another personal story where we had a family event where someone brought an actual firearm, and it was just in their backpack in a living room, and we had little kids going around, right? And so
But that, if it were an actual firearm,
it would be
it meets
different.
the definition.
Yeah.
It is required
be
to
different.
come forward as a mandatory expulsion.
Right, but if it was a toy and they pull it out, you're saying that if everyone freaks out, then we have concern.
It's going to start to speak to the significant disruption or a safety concern to self or others, that the school code, not in the language I provided, because I
Right.
just provided the weapons definition, but in the section of the school code that speaks to when can a suspension be issued and when can an expulsion be issued.
Right.
That's Senate Bill 100.
I'll keep that comment.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay.
Okay, so we will take this feedback. Thank you very much, Board. We will develop a couple of proposals, most likely coming out of this discussion, and ask that the PTAC weigh in on that as well, and then bring the matter back within the student handbook recommendations. The PTAC meeting is scheduled, I believe, for June 6th, 3rd, June 3rd at 4 o'clock, Mr. Moten? For anybody interested
Yes.
in participating in that discussion, to further weigh in on what is an appropriate way to manage lookalikes in particular, but any of the other matters that were raised this evening. Thank you.
Oh, in addition, it's going to be at Lincoln Center this time, because I know we try to rotate it to make it accessible to the community. So you're correct, June 3rd, 4 PM at Lincoln Center.
And
Or
still
virtual.
available.
Or virtual,
Okay.
but you would have to
Zoom.
reach out to get
Yeah,
the
the
Zoom
Zoom.
link.
Thank you.
And that would be reaching out to
Student
Mr.
outreach.
Dupuy.
Dupuy or student outreach at WPS60.org is who organizes it.
All right, moving on. Item 21, student discipline, there is none. 22, board member time. Ms. Ramirez.
I'd like to hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. It seemed to be very peaceful. Shout out to Clark. I visited their success ceremony on Friday at Lakehurst, and it was really, really awesome. Also, shout out to our team came by and visited their open house or their success ceremony. I'm not remember what it was called, but the wraparound center was here. Got to visit with some of the families that are serviced through our wraparound center. So I'm really happy to see that our programs are being utilized, and I would really love to see an expansion of those programs. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Riddle.
Yes, also a shout out to everyone at Clark School who planned their second Student Success End of the Year showcase. It was marvelous. As anyone who went there could see, the kids displayed their projects that they had been working on throughout the year, and I'm telling you, I was blown away. This is a great school, and these kids are doing wonderful work. I mean, just fabulous. I just thought that the kids also were dressed up so nice. Their parents were there. We have so many different, groups, nationalities there. I just was impressed with the whole event. It was just wonderful. And then, of course, the other event that took place on Friday, the 23rd, was the time capsule. And again, I was impressed with how wonderfully that was planned, with the students who spoke, two seniors that talked about how they prepared for this and what they wanted to put in to that time capsule, and everybody that worked so hard to cover it up as well afterwards. It was a great experience. Thank you. Wonderful end to the school year, and of course, all the graduations that we went to, the middle school graduations, the speakers at the high school graduation. Wow, the valedictorian, I thought, blew us away with how he presented. What a fabulous young man he is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riddle. Ms. Hannah?
I just want to say that this year has been really, really interesting, and we have had we've had a number of things going on, but overall, our students are out of school and they're deserving a break, just like staff deserves a break, other than that, the time capsule, that event, it has me thinking about different things, about what was it? 2075.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me, that's the time, that's when the time capsule is gonna be open. I'm not gonna be here. But,
You're not planning to be here?
look, if I could, I probably would, okay?
Approval, Mr.
But there, I was able and honored to be able to put some, couple things in the time capsule. And so, it just gave me a whole different perspective about things. and so that's where I am right now. But I do want to say that was for the high school, right? Can we do one just for the district? I'm just asking. Yeah, because I think that and just to think, in 2075, it's going to be totally different
Oh man, I hope so.
from where we are right now. And look, I mean, they'll think we are like the Flintstones, probably. So anyway, hopefully we can do something like that, for the district and stuff.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Ms. Lindsay?
Oh, buddy. So I just learned a new term this year, and it's been around for a while, so I'm slow on the game. It's called Maycember, where it's like all of the activities of the month of December with no real like hoorah holiday at the end. You're just go, go, go. So I did get to join a lot of school district events, which I was really excited to be a part of. I got to join the JRTC awards night and see all of the awards get passed out to the wonderful cadets, and I got to see the new regiment be inducted in, and just from being the RC in '04 to seeing where the program has come now is just amazing. There's a lot more tradition and culture being added into the program, but I told the instructors that the best thing to see is that the love and the camaraderie has maintained. That's still the primary component of the program. So it was just, I thank them for inviting me. It was great to see. Was also able to stay for the Lake County Educator of the Year that happened over at the Lake County Fairgrounds. Unfortunately, none of our educators won, but you guys are top tier, and I definitely think we should take some of those home, but that's a very biased opinion. I'll say that straight out. Got to attend the Pour into Parks Gala. So as we look to kind of tidy up our own house, making sure that we're being good partners with our other city government divisions, so like our park district, our City of Waukegan Police Department, et cetera. So it was really nice to see all of the work that they put into the Carnegie Library to preserve the historical aspects of it, and the renovations were amazing. So if you haven't gone, it is going to be open to the public, so please make sure you check it out. Was also at graduation, and I loved that in hearing feedback from the teachers, even though the rain was off and on, a lot of us stood through it, and everybody got their certificates and diplomas, but the kids loved it. They actually had a blast. So it was really good to hear that feedback, that it was a really memorable experience. Also did the 5 middle school promotions, and it was really, I love shaking all their hands and congratulating them, because it's a lot of hard work and it's just one more step. So I know, Miss Hannah, you didn't mention it, but I had to step in to help with some of the speeches, because Miss Hannah was downstate in Springfield advocating to ensure that we're not cutting funding to education. Yeah. So I took one for the team and spoke at all 5. You lucky ducks. And then I went to another 5th grade promotion. So because of that, I didn't get to attend the Clark one, but I did go last year, and it was amazing. I think it would be great if maybe we could have more of the elementary schools on the same day, like use the same space, so that other families can also, like, we can reserve finances, but other families can experience how amazing that event is. Or just hit up Clark and see how they do it. That might be a good idea. Time capsule was super fun. I agree the students were amazing. Mr. Riddle, they talked about things they put in. I'm a little sad they put in Red Bull. Y'all should not be drinking Red Bull.
Right.
I will say it again, do not drink Red Bull.
Do not drink Red Bull.
But I love hot Cheetos are okay. Those are fine. And Sour Patch Kids went in. So it's fun to see that 20 years later, some of the same snacks, minus Red Bull, went in. The cook sampler was great as always. They did a really good job. Also got to attend, I told y'all it was a whole list, the retiree dinner.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. What was it, like 700 years, you guys said, collectively?
736, I think.
It was a crazy number. And just to hear like some of these teachers that I didn't even get a chance to meet or talk to and hear about their stories on how like they're not even just helping our students, but they're out there helping our immigrant families get their GEDs so they can be successful in this country was just, oh, it warmed my heart. Oh, it was great. So I loved hearing those stories. Sorry they're gone, leaving us after this year, but very hopeful that they have a great retirement. I'm wrapping it up. I would like to see if we can get a survey done on how the past 2 years, and we're going into our final year of the calendar adjustment. So we're starting earlier. I know from a board perspective, we've had a little bit of frustrations just with the hiring of we hire early, and then maybe they get another school district that they're going into, and then they leave us before they even start. So we've had that little bit of a hiccup. But if we can get perspectives from the teachers and the students, especially like the high school students that I'm understanding it was supposed to impact, and the families, that would be really helpful. And then the last thing, as we move into summer, make sure we continue to pour love into these kids. We have great kids in Waukegan. I can't say that enough. Our kids are amazing, and they deserve all of the love and support and cheerleading that we can give them. So I just want to put that reminder out there that these kids need to hear it over and over and over again. I'm just blown away by you guys. So enjoy your summer if you can. Enjoy summer school. It's going to be fun while educational. And best of luck to everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Ms. Fabian?
Same for the retirement dinner. I saw so many people that I used to work with and saw as colleagues who were very instrumental in who I am today. And it's bittersweet seeing them go, but it's, hopefully I'll get there someday soon with this economy, probably when I'm 102. But I also saw some of my old students during graduation, which really reminds me and hopefully reminds other educators on how long-lasting your impact is. I had many of them in first grade, so you get to see them all grown up. Some of them you recognize, and some of them, until they say their name, like they've grown so much. So it's kind of sad. Next year will be my last class that I taught here in Waukegan. But congratulations to the class of 2025. As far as the comments earlier, I agree with Mr. Strickland about having para mentors. It's very important, especially when paras move from role to role or can move from role to role. So I started as, I had a pullout, then I was a liaison, and then I was in district office, and so you can have so many roles that you move around in. So having a mentor that understands your specific role and can help guide you would be amazing, and I think would help keep our paras around. I got to celebrate the teacher vacancy grants. And again, I appreciate all of those who are taking that extra step to educate themselves and to dedicate themselves to come back to Waukegan as a teacher. That's something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I would not be an educator had I not been provided similar opportunity. I know that paying for a bachelor's degree is difficult, and going to school when you have a family and a full-time job is difficult, and this makes it possible for our paras to do, because it's not always just about the finances. It's about the timing and, do you have childcare, do you have support, et cetera. And so I know it's a big commitment, but I also want to say to those who are considering and are not part of that program to really look at other avenues, like go on to becomeateacher.com, see other ways that you can progress. Same thing with looking at your contracts, taking advantage of the tuition reimbursements. And there are other grants out there, like from National Louis, that also help pay for your education if you want to move on to be a teacher. So again, I really encourage you to make that move. I know it's a difficult one, but it's a very rewarding one. And it's easier to keep our paras. You're already familiar with our students and our policies and our procedures. So it makes for a smooth transition on both ends. I also wanted to ask about the seal of biliteracy. I know in years past, we've had a presentation, so we know exactly how many students graduated with the seal of biliteracy. I know that we say it during graduation, but again, I think that's something that we really need to highlight is how many of our students are graduating with that seal of biliteracy and showcasing the languages as well, because it's not just Spanish that they're getting the biliteracy degree, certification. That seal of biliteracy, for students who don't know, also helps them become a bilingual teacher. They don't have to take the tests in order to do that. So that's another perk if you want to come back and teach. I agree with Mr. President Rodriguez. The superintendent goals, and this is something that I've said in the past, if we're doing school improvement goals now so that our schools can be really constructive in allocating resources, including funds, in order to meet those goals so that they're ready by August to get started and meet those goals, we should be doing the same for the superintendent. It's going to be very difficult for her to appropriate funds and resources and staff to meet a goal for the end of the year when we're giving them to her in December. All of these things should be planned in the summer so that we're all in alignment of what we want to see for the end of the school year. And then lastly, I just want to say again, thank you to all of those who support the Waukegan Public Schools Foundation. And I just want to add a note, if you go onto our website, there is a Shop Now button. That Shop Now button leads to a PayPal where you can donate online. That's all. Thank you.
Can I?
Ms. Hannah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Andrew Cook Magnet School, and at one point, all of us were given a feather, and we became a part of a house. We picked a feather, and we became a part of the house, and so I'm wearing my medal that I won because of the, say the word, my house was.
Oh, Isabel.
Isabendi, okay? And they got the highest points, and that's the Courage House. And so they got the most points, and I just want to say, congratulations, Greenhouse, Isabendi, and keep up the good work for next year. Yeah, Cook Magnet.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Okay, we are not going to adjourn. Right now, I'm going to call for a motion to go into recess. We're going to reassemble and back in 5 minutes to complete the closed session agenda. There are a few things that we need to get out of the way tonight.
At least 3 minutes.
We have a motion to go into recess.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Ms. Ariane. All in favor?
Aye.
Before, can you say what we're going back into closed session
We're
for?
going back into closed session in 5 minutes.
No, for
The
exception
exceptions.
Oh,
C1
the
personnel
Yeah, right.
and C21
C9
approval, review of board minutes.
Yes, well, the 5 things we have were C9 student discipline, C10 individual, well, we may. C10 individual student matters, C1 personnel matters, C11 legal matters, C21 closed session minutes. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are now in recess 5 minutes.